Western civilization has one significant drawback. People there stubbornly refuse to believe the madness happening behind the Iron Curtain. Americans still can't grasp that North Korea has entered the war against Ukraine.
That's it, we've been captured. Look, they're running. Right here. Right here. Right here. We can't film them. Do. There are millions of them here. Here come the new reinforcements.
Europeans still can't believe that Russia wants to destroy them. For many years, they pretended not to notice how Muscovy was turning into North Korea. And Putin is increasingly cosplaying the Kim family of Korean dictators.
No one listened to us. Listen now. Thank you.
But really, what do we expect from Europeans? Even Russians themselves still haven't realized what kind of cesspool they've ended up in. Naturally, with their own silent consent,
I'm not personally involved in politics at all.
it honestly feels almost as if North Korea actually bit Russia, and now it's gone completely and utterly rabid, truly out of control. But in this case, 40 shots in the stomach won't help. 40 years of reparations, maybe. To understand what Muscovy has turned into, you need to look at the original. North Korea was formed in 1948. At the same time, South Korea also emerged. The South was supported by the USA and the North by the rusty USSR. And now these two countries are the perfect visual example of the development of Western and Soviet-style civilizations.
So, let's sum it up. I am the strongest power. Well, okay, we are. We are the strongest power. We're great, the coolest, and the cutest.
While technology and science were steadily developing in South Korea, meanwhile, North Korea was perfecting methods of torture and execution of its population.
Sometimes they would take off their clothes and then put metal rods in the pockets. After that, they would beat me with those clothes. Usually my whole back would turn black from that.
But the main achievement of North Korea, its most remarkable, distinctive, and unique product, is without question the cult of personality around the Kim family dynasty. The extraordinary biography and life story of this family is truly, at once, a thriller, a porno, and a fantasy.
Run, you fools!
Worship of the leader in North Korea is an entire religion called Juche. The Kims are literally regarded as deities, and propaganda endows them with divine skills. Doesn't that remind you of anything?
Filming? Filming. Let's shoot a police with this time. Lord, range. Nothing for prayer.
No, that's a twist.
All other religions except UK are banned in North Korea. You can only pray to Kim the grandfather, Kim the father, and Kim the son. This holy trinity is destroying Koreans on a truly biblical scale. But official Moscow sees nothing shameful in this. After all, they're just copying Stalin. And in general, the Kremlin is happy to adopt the experience of their North Korean comrades.
Tell me, please, how can one pray for such a great, unrepentant sinner whose hands are elbow-deep in blood and who has absolutely nothing to do with orthodoxy, Mr. Putin?
How? Very simple. Let me explain. Lord, have mercy! That's all! I think Vladimir Vladimirovich will be very pleased.
The fact that Jesus walked on water and raised the dead, none of that matters at all. For example, Kim Il-sung is considered a perfect being and supposedly doesn't even defecate. Putin is nowhere near that in this regard, although he is already taking his first steps toward a perverted Ark of the Covenant.
While European leaders are discussing the future of the conflict in Ukraine, people on Twitter are talking about how many bodyguards accompany Putin to the bathroom. 6, as noted by BBC journalist Jonah Fisher. Now it's clear what was in that little suitcase. That's the joke on social media. This week's sensation. Paris Match and Proct found that on Putin's trips, an FSO officer collects his excrement in special bags and returns it to Russia.
Just so you understand, the miracles in Kim Il-sung's rectum are taught in schools, along with many other unbelievable things. Kim Jong-un learned to drive at the age of 3, and at 4 he probably won the Formula One championship, and at 5 he ended his racing career and invented brakes, so that no one could ever break his record. Russia is not far behind. Once Putin scored 8 goals in a hockey match, playing against professional hockey players. The press, of course, suspected the athletes of succumbing to the sun-faced one. But a call from the FSB Sports Committee quickly restored their faith in what was happening. I am a Sevokhina. I am a Sevokhina. A Sevokhina. I wouldn't be surprised if North Korean television really did say that Kim Jong-un won the race. Their national football team already won the World Cup in 2014. They beat the USA 4-0, China 2-0, and in the final Japan 7-0. The funny thing is, North Korea didn't even qualify for the World Cup that year. But in a country with no internet or mobile communication, anything is possible. Even a landing on the sun. Yes, that happened too.
What the hell are you even talking about? Honestly.
North Korean television could give Marvel and DC combined a run for their money.
Did you see that?
But let's get back to Arjuch, and at the same time, ahem.
I left television in 2017 when the presidential campaign for 2018 started, and that's when things really started to get crazy. The editor-in-chief told me to cut out any cough from Putin, and Putin coughs a lot, so it was really hard to edit. I also wasn't allowed to show him from certain angles, and adding in laughter, well, honestly, that was probably the last straw.
For those who don't know, Kim Jong-un's father, Kim Jong-il, invented the hamburger, was the world's best golfer, and once hit a ball into 5 holes with a single stroke.
Idiots. Insane.
1 ball into 5 holes. How do you like that, Dr. Strange?
That simply defies common sense.
And Kim Jong-il also wrote a book a day. 30 books a month. How do you like that, Don Silva?
You're just feeding me some complete nonsense.
Let me remind you, this nonsense is taught in schools and universities. Kids have to take exams on the biographies of these lunatics. And God forbid you fail them.
God help you.
Propaganda often told stories about Kim Jong-il's superhuman abilities, his power to manipulate time and space.
The same thing is happening in Russia. Putin is already a super being. He seems to exist above this world. Russians are even allowed to criticize the authorities, but not Putin. It's as if he's not involved at all.
I have become so enlightened in my understanding that it feels like I've already lived for 100 trillion billion years on trillions and trillions of similar planets. You see, just like this Earth, this world is already completely clear to me.
Putin is the supreme entity who is supposed to appear and restore order. And all this mess that's happening during his rule is not his fault. He was deceived.
Vladimir Vladimirovich, please withdraw your troops, pull out our forces, and Ukraine will leave us alone. Leave their territory.
Putin is so great that corruption, crime, lawlessness, theft, and poverty are beneath him. Putin thinks about the fate of the world, planetary domination, and hunger in Africa. But hunger in Buryatia is uninteresting, too down to earth.
That's nonsense. Do you understand? This is nonsense.
Putin's biography is also acquiring a legendary aura. It turns out he was a super spy, not a desk jockey, and practically single-handedly kept the Berlin Wall from falling.
Putin comes out to this crowd and tries to stop them. The people are very aggressive, and Putin has to use all his powers of persuasion. Did you have a rifle?
Me? I had my service weapon, of course. I was an officer, after all.
How did those around him remember Putin? I think the best way to describe it is by the nickname he was given there. They called him Okorok, the cigarette butt.
Putin was a submariner, a pilot, a stork, and even a Chechen.
I'm a Lak. I'm a Dagestani. I'm a Chechen, an Ingush, a Russian, a Tatar, a Jew, a Mordvin, an Ossetian.
And Putin was also a Marine and once burned in a tank. But that's not entirely accurate. Maybe it was his double.
It turned out that in the army he was a Marine.
The Marines train specialists like that.
But for a lot of people to believe in this nonsense, you have to force them to do it. Repression is the main component of a personality cult. In North Korea, it started in 1956 and still hasn't ended. Hundreds of thousands of people are in so-called re-education camps.
I'll tear your arms off.
Oh God, maybe I can do something for you. Maybe I can do something for you.
Try eating your feet.
They put entire families in there and never let them out. Of course, no one is actually being re-educated there. According to numerous testimonies from people who managed to escape from North Korea, medical experiments are conducted on prisoners in these camps, chemical weapons are tested, and inmates are starved. Although hunger in North Korea is not limited to the camps. In Muscovy, prison is now also a one-way ticket. Steal, drink, and you end up in jail, and then sent to the special military operation.
How romantic!
There is another characteristic similarity between North Korea and Russia. Wild, unrestrained showmanship.
Solnechny settlement, 10th microdistrict, Academic Semyonov Street. Here, recently, not only playgrounds and curbs are being painted, but also the grass and concrete. This is the unusual method local utility workers came up with, apparently, so they wouldn't have to waste time growing a lawn.
There's nothing in this country. It's just, you know, I look at these people now and I feel ashamed to be Russian, honestly. I'm ashamed to live in this great country.
It's hard to tell who's copying whom here. North Korea is a facade country with empty high-rises, plastic stores for tourists, and a powerless population weeping with happiness. It's the same in Russia. You don't have to look far. Before the BRICS summit in Kazan, people were banned from driving old cars around the city so as not to spoil the majestic scenery.
In fact, the only positive thing about this car is that you can actually drive it while wearing a hat. Allow me to demonstrate just how terrible it is.
And just the other day, Putin ordered a railway that doesn't exist to be drawn on the map of Russia. And he doesn't even hide the fact that it doesn't exist. But what does that matter in a personality cult in a totalitarian regime?
Show the northern latitudinal railway. That's how it should be. The first northern latitudinal railway runs from Nadim to Obskaya, while the second goes from Obskaya to Sovetskaya. These two sections, they're currently drawn here as a small dashed line. Yes. Given budget constraints, we must consider how to implement these major investment projects. We can only proceed with them if their expected returns are clear.
So we can already start the countdown to when Russians will be herded into so-called re-education camps, and when the TV will announce that Alina Kabayeva has officially become the first person to do a flip in the Alpha Centauri constellation.
I would like to remind you that this video is created for entertainment purposes and contains elements of satire and irony. All facts and events are presented in a hyperbolized or exaggerated form to convey a comedic or dramatic effect. Our goal is not to mislead, but to highlight humor. Please take it with a smile.